Hi, I'm BokkyPooBah or Bokku. What do I do? I'm an Ethereum fanatic, so I just flutter around the Ethereum ecosystem looking for interesting things to do.
All right.
Try not to commit too long to any project because there's so much happening. I don't want to miss out.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, when did you actually join the crypto space? And what caught your attention? So, what was it?
In 2015, in March, I went to a talk about how Bitcoin brought the blockchain as the trusted platform. And I heard about Bitcoin before, but it was not very interesting. You could transfer tokens from one account to another account. You can't do much other than that. But then in the middle of 2015, Ethereum came along, and wow, it's like a giant box of Lego Mindstorm.
All right, yeah.
And I haven't been able to sleep properly ever since because, what can you do with these building blocks? And there are more building blocks coming out every day, including your stuff, the day token, Ethereum alarm clock, and you try to work out how they can fit in together to build something bigger. And
yeah, awesome. So I know you are into the security as well. So how do you judge the current state of Ethereum smart contracts? Are you scanning those,
No.
and you see what's going on? And
I don't like doing audits.
Okay.
Because it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
And you have to think in a few different ways. So you can follow function to function, but you have also got to follow what the sequence of events that occur.
It is pretty tricky now. The EVM, the virtual machine behind that, is a lot of the small quirks and old things that happen. I know it by my kind of experience as well. It's not like a regular programming language when things just kind of easy and straightforward. Tooling is immature and so on. But do you think this kind of security audits, could they be automated at some point, good enough formal verification or other stuff that can kind of help?
I think it would help, and there's some standardized libraries coming out. But the problem with the standardized libraries is that they try to cater for a lot of different situations, so they become complex in itself. And then you got to break up these standardized libraries into lots of small parts. So you've got deployment of separate contracts, and you've got to worry about owners, who owns or which contract owns which contract. So it's a bit scary waiting for the day when 25 million raised in a crowd sale gets locked in the crowd sale contract and can't come out.
That things already happen. We know it, right? We just kind of see that. Okay, so you know that we are chronologic working with Piper Miriam on Ethereum alarm clock. It's basically scheduling transactions on the Ethereum blockchain. So do you think how this could change the whole ecosystem? It's a missing thing since the beginning.
So yes, you get so normally you have to call transactions at specific times when you want to run it. I wonder how many people will be queuing up for ICOs.
We don't know that. Might be really important for these guys, definitely.
So it'll be interesting to see how it works. I haven't looked at it too deeply yet. Like how long your queues and things can be to execute one time, and
it's fairly complex, smart contracts based on libraries, delegate calls, and all that things that just to reduce the cost. That's kind of important.
So I've seen a lot of arrays that are used to represent the different time section and gas and all that.
Yeah, exactly. They mainly because of due to the limitations of EVM and the Solidity. So it's in a way very primitive, programming language. You can't do the things you used to do, doing other software development. So
when you name all your individual variables, you run out of stack space.
Exactly. So they're things from 80s or whatever.
That's right.
This is really computing. 20 years ago. I totally agree on that.
That's right. So it's interesting. I suppose the Solidity will allow more stack space eventually, so your variables can be represented. But yes, it's evolving very slowly.
All right. So can you think of any use cases for a scheduling beyond the ICO participation maybe?
That's a tricky one. So
yeah, I mean, yes, because really it's scheduling is almost feels like nature and should be everywhere. It's like this kind of, could you describe, some basic stuff? It's really hard to describe basic stuff because you know them that.
So I am now used to not being able to schedule.
Yeah.
So I have to plan around when I do things. For example, like your ENS.
Totally.
You've got to come back in a few days to reveal your bid. And in the end, I just didn't worry about it because I can't put myself into a schedule to come back and do it. So,
yeah, exactly. Some processes require you to just come back later on later time, and usually you don't remember or something, and that's pain.
So can you use Ethereum alarm clock to reveal your bid? And if doing so, will it reveal it earlier?
Yeah, so you can do that definitely because with this protocol you can schedule a call, whether it's like a Ether transfer or a smart contract call. It doesn't matter. You put whatever data you need to put, and it's gonna be executed.
Yes. And how complex is it to build the data that Ethereum alarm clock is going to execute? So you're preparing a DApp front end so that the data is crafted automatically? No,
so we don't have that feature yet. So it would be really something like you have on My Crypto, where you want to interact with the contracts, right? So you put an ABI, and then we can calculate the signatures of the methods and so on. So we don't have this at the moment. That's in the future. So as for now, we just ask people to put like encoded data. So it contains obviously the method signature and all the encoded inputs for that method. That's the way. It's like very universal thing. It's not that user friendly, but it's the first step. Yes, we're building the foundation. So totally.
Then the other thing would be estimate of gas. And you can't estimate the gas.
Yeah, we do that already actually, because we know obviously the destination address and the amount of data and the method, so we can estimate the gas. So that's what we're doing.
So for example, ICOs, if it starts at a certain time in the future, then you can't estimate the gas because it will throw until it starts.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's some things are really you don't know are tricky, but it's like a very beginning of this new thing. So
And presumably you're using the call value function to execute.
The execution depends on what side you're talking about now. So the execution is happening off-chain. So we have the off-chain clients that scans the blockchain, the network, and whatever is suitable for them and profitable for them to execute, they send a transaction. So it's like a send transaction, not call value, basically.
So is there? So just thinking about the security aspects. So someone is incentivized to run the alarm clock.
Yes, so it's like that. Basically, when you schedule a transaction, there is a new contract being deployed on the network. It holds the value that is going to be transferred later, as well a time bounty, which is a incentive amount just to someone to run it. It's like crypto economics. Sound protocol, which means that there is incentive layer for the time nodes, for the off-chain clients to run those transactions. And then that's obviously it's gonna work. Basically, that's very similar to all this similar things like in the blockchains in general, like Bitcoins and the mining. So it's quite a similar approach.
So one thing I haven't worked out is there's an incentive mechanism there. But what if 10 people run it at the same time?
All right, so we're going really deep into the implementation. Yeah, so there are some mechanisms to improve that. Obviously, we know that when you have 10 executing nodes running, try to execute one transaction, only one will succeed. The rest will pay money for the execution and get nothing, which means like roughly 1 by 10 transactions are profitable. So that's kind of not viable business. So there are mechanism, including claiming and the payment modifiers and so on, that improves that basically. All right, so Bokky, thank you for the interview. It was really cool. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.